But for now, we'll move on to Libya, where the UN and the UN Secretary-General has called on all sides there to agree to an immediate ceasefire. Ban Ki-moon says he's gravely concerned about signs of a forthcoming assault on the eastern rebel stronghold of Benghazi. In the latest fighting, pro-Gaddafi forces have attacked the city of Misurata in the west. We're getting reports of at least 6 people being killed after the town came under heavy bombardment. Plus, more fierce clashes have taken place in the eastern opposition city of AJE. Well, meanwhile, Muammar Gaddafi says he does not expect his forces to have to fight to regain control of Libya's second largest city, Benghazi. In an interview on Lebanese television, he said the opposition will be defeated with the help of the people.
I don't think so. There is no reason for a battle. They told me, everyone was contacting me, they say they're acting against their will. They phone me and they tell me that they've been threatened by their families, threatened that they will do things to their families, to their wives, and they contact me to tell me that they are acting against their will.
But pro-democracy fighters in Benghazi say they'll fight on and fight hard to defeat Gaddafi's forces. Tony Bertley reports.
It was a small demonstration, but they were defiant, a direct response to threats by Gaddafi's son Saif that the rebellion and Benghazi would be finished in 48 hours.
He will be finished, not us.
They chanted the deaths of the martyrs will not be in vain and were impervious to the scaremongering from some quarters which suggested the government forces are closing in on the city.
There will be a resistance here until we die.
A month after the rebellion began, the momentum has been lost along with hundreds of kilometres of territory, but most of it has been desert.
We are not listening to what Gaddafi and his sons say. He wants us to leave this country, but it is they who should go.
The rebels have been buoyed by the news that fighters have beaten back an offensive which has waged over Ajdabia, 160 kilometres away. Here, tanks, they say, which have been captured from Gaddafi's units. They now say his forces have been pushed back 40 kilometres to the west. Good news, but back in Benghazi, some are apprehensive that the war may still come to their doorstep.
On February the 17th, when the rebellion began, people here faced Gaddafi's bullets with songs and slogans. Now they have many more small weapons, which may not be as effective in the desert, but in fighting in urban areas like this could prove deadly. Taking Benghazi could be a costly objective.
Street fighting would be the last resort for most armies, when tanks and heavy weapons would be of little use and vulnerable.
If they come in here, we will absolutely defeat them. They will not stay here anymore, God willing.
There is forlorn hope that the West will still intervene in some way, but it is fading.
Tonight we need weapons, light weapons. We need multi-rocket launchers. We need all the light weapons that we carried in shoulders, the Stinger, anti-aircrafts, everything. We need everything that it is possible to defeat this devil.
They are slowly getting used to the feeling of liberation in this city, but it is not guaranteed. Nothing in Libya is. Tony Bertley, Al Jazeera, Benghazi.
A proposal for a no-fly zone over Libya is under debate at the United Nations. Let's cross over to Shihab Ratanzi in our Washington Broadcast Centre for more on that. Shihab.
Thanks, Laura. Wednesday was the third time in as many days officials met to discuss a resolution proposed by France and Britain. The text of the draft will be scrutinised by member countries overnight, with questions remaining over the wording. In particular, the imposition of a no-fly zone by, quote, all means necessary. Al Jazeera's Scott Heidler was at the UN in New York.
A day of closed-door meetings by members of the Security Council began at 11 o'clock in the morning here in New York. Initially tabled was a draft resolution presented by the French, the British, and the Lebanese that would impose a no-fly zone over Libya. Crucially, it's a measure that was supported by the Arab League. With fighting still going on the ground in Libya, it was critical for the international community to come up with something and act quickly to stop pro-Gaddafi forces.
We are hopeful that the Libyan people is looking forward to the Security Council to adopt a resolution as soon as possible and to authorize air strikes on the forces of Colonel Gaddafi, especially those forces which has a clear intention, which is to destroy villages.
Another draft resolution was presented to the Security Council, this time by the Russians. It was a single piece of paper that called for a ceasefire between opposing sides before any no-fly zone. It was a suggestion that wasn't taken too seriously by the members of the Security Council, who wanted to see far more comprehensive measures. Now, 9 hours after these talks started, America's representative to the United Nations appeared in front of the mics.
The U.S. view is that we need to be prepared to contemplate steps that include but perhaps go beyond a no-fly zone. At this point, as the situation on the ground has evolved, and as a no-fly zone has inherent limitations in terms of protection of civilians at immediate risk. And it's my hope that we may be in a position to vote a serious resolution as early as tomorrow. We're working very hard toward that end.
So more talking here at the United Nations on Thursday, and perhaps a vote on concrete measures to be taken swiftly by the international community, including the Arab League.
Scott Heidler, we're joined by Ali Ojali. He's the former Libyan ambassador to the United States, but now works with the opposition council. Are you pleased that the US now appears to be supporting a no-fly zone?
Well, I'm happy to hear the U.S. representative to United Nations Security Council to say something like that. This is maybe the first time I have seen this kind of a statement has been made, and I would like very much to support that non-fly zone is not be enough, that we need more than non-fly zone to stop killing of the people by the forces loyal to Gaddafi.
But what we understand the U.S. administration is thinking is that a no-fly zone is irrelevant and perhaps might even be a bad idea because it will take at least until April to put in place. So now what they're leaning towards is jamming radio signals, perhaps money to the opposition and so forth.
You have to do everything possible to stop the killing. April, that's a very long time.
But that's just the logistics of putting one in place. So they think a no-fly zone doesn't necessarily make any sense anyway.
No, I think. Look, what I mean to say. I always hear that there are so many options on the table. We need options that stop Gaddafi from killing people, from advancing to reoccupy the cities and being liberated. But telling me that the fly zone is not practical, fly zone need time. We need action. We've been listening to this statement since since February 17th. But now, unfortunately, to see some countries, they are just giving the regime more time to kill more people and to gain more land.
Can you see that when Mr. Dabashi at the United Nations says within 10 hours it'll all be over, we need an international response now, that it might backfire? Because those who are already reluctant will think, well, there's no point now.
Well, I think that I was listening to the Russian proposal. I think that's not acceptable at all. This regime will not listen to anybody except he's been stopped by force. There is no way, no wasting time by talking about another resolution or talking about ceasefire. There is no kind of this discussion on the table with the Libyan opposition. Libyan, they said, we want this regime to go, we want the people to be free, we want to achieve our democracy, and the world, they are facing a real challenge to stop this killing going on the Libyan
Now, the
territory.
US still, as far as I know, has not recognized the Transitional Council as the official voice of Libya. So how much consultation is going on between the opposition and the administration here?
Well, I've been explaining this since the thing started and since the council is announced. There are some maybe ambiguities concerning the member of the council. I explained to them who they are, and the United States, they have an embassy in Libya since 2004. And Libya is small countries, people, they know each other. Then there is no comments
right, but the question is, in order to be legal, for example, giving the money to the opposition, there would have to be a legal recognition of the Transitional Council as the voice of Libya. Otherwise it would just be
then the United States, what they're
Is there any process underway to do that?
What the United States is waiting to do. France, they already recognize the regime. The Arab League, they said they're opening channels with the council. Then I don't find what is the reason behind delaying the United States and the other countries to recognize this this council, which being formed by the Libyan people, which being recognized by the Libyan people. Then if it is recognized by the Libyan people, including students here and all over the world, then what the world is waiting for.
Ali Ojali, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And that's it for now from Washington. Let's return to Doha.